Okay, our topic for our concentrations today is going to be molarity, and it's also going to be dilutions. These two equations kind of go together, so we're going to talk about them together. Molarity is represented by a capital letter M. That's also the unit that you'll use at the end of your problem when you're doing that. You can also use, besides the capital letter M, you can also use how many moles you have per liter. So that's another unit that you can use. So make sure you know those units. Remember, you're going to have a quiz tomorrow. You're supposed to watch this video and you review over definitions, review over units. So make sure you know what would the appropriate unit be for molarity, because I may ask that on the quiz. Okay, so back to the definition. It is the number of moles of solute that you have dissolved per liter of solution. You have to remember, if you don't know how many moles of solute you have, remember the solute is the substance that is dissolved, you're going to have to convert. So here's your mole map. If you have your moles in the middle and you want to go back and forth from particles, you got to use your 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. If you want to go back and forth between mass, remember you have to use the gram formula mass. So you get your periodic tables ready to go, because we're going to be using them. If you want to go to volume, you use your 22.4. But remember, this has to be at STP. You have to have standard conditions. It has to be 0 degrees Celsius. It has to be standard pressure. Most of the time, you're going to be using this, that part of the graph. You're going to be going from grams to moles, moles to grams is what you're going to be using. The other two you're not going to be using. So it's that gram formula mass that you're going to be using to get your grams into moles. So what does that capital letter M stand for? It stands for molar. So when you read your answer, you would say that it's a 3 molar solution. You would say that it is 3 moles per liter of solution. It's the same exact thing. So let's practice a couple problems. Now, I eliminated some of the problems. I'm only going to practice a couple of them. So this is number 14. So look in your notes for number 14. You need to write down the examples as I'm going through them. So you should be working them out as I am working them out, because I'll be checking your notes to see, do you have your problems done? So number 14, the question is, what is the molarity? You're going to need a calculator. You're going to need a periodic table. What is the molarity of an aqueous solution containing 40 grams of glucose in 1.5 liters of solution? So to find molarity, you take your moles of your solute, which is our glucose, and you divide it by how many liters of solution you have. So it tells us we have 40 grams of glucose. We don't want grams of glucose, we want moles of glucose. So here's where I'm saying you need to go ahead and convert. So you're going to use your 40 grams of C6H12O6. You're going to convert that to moles. So 1 mole of glucose over the gram formula mass. So 12 times 6 plus 12 plus 16 times 6. So when you add that all up, it's 180 grams for your gram formula mass of that glucose. So 40 divided by 180 gives you 0.222 moles of C6H12O6. All right, so our problem says in order to find the molarity, I have to take the moles, which I just found out was 0.222, and divide it by how many liters of solution. Well, it tells me up in my problem that I have 1.5 liters of solution. Divide those two, and you get, with only 2 sig figs, because 1.5 only has 2 sig figs, 0.15 molar solution. Again, you have a choice here. Moles divided by liters don't cancel out. These units don't cancel. They're two different things. So you can use the capital letter M, which is probably what I would use most of the time, or you can write your answer as moles per liter, because that's what you have back over here, is you have how many moles divided by liter. So if you get confused and you're not sure, look at what you have. You have moles per liter. All right, let's try one more. This one, they're asking how many grams of calcium chloride. Well, in the equation, it doesn't say anything about grams. It's moles and liters is what you have in your problem. But if you know how many moles you have, you can convert to how many grams you're going to have. So that's what we're going to have to do. Now, let's look at this. We have how many grams of calcium chloride should be dissolved in 500 milliliters of water. It cannot be milliliters. It has to be liters of the substance. So that's important to know. Okay, it has to be liters. It's very specific what your units have to be in order to solve for your molarity. So let's plug in what we know in this problem. I know that I have a 0.20 molar solution of calcium chloride, so that's my concentration. So I'm going to plug that in where the concentration would go. I have no idea how many moles I have. That's going to be my X, divided by how many liters of solution. So I have to change my milliliters to liters, move that decimal point. It has 4 sig figs up there. It has to still have 4 sig figs. I have to solve for X. Cross multiply. So 0.2 times 0.5, we determine that X is 0.10 moles. Okay, remember this is how many moles you have per liter. Your volume over here is in liters, so the liters will cancel out, and the only unit you have left is your moles, which is what we're solving for. But that's not the question that they're asking. They're asking how many grams do I have? So we have to convert. So I have 0.10 moles of calcium chloride times, we need the gram formula mass of calcium chloride. So you use your periodic table. Calcium is 40.1. The chlorides are 35.5 apiece, and you have 2 of them. So it's 111.1 grams of calcium chloride over 1 mole, because that's the question. Way up here at the top, it says how many grams of calcium chloride. So the moles will cancel out. We'll be left with our grams of calcium chloride. So I'll take 0.1 times our 111.1, and we get 11 grams of calcium chloride is our final answer. Now, the one problem that I'm not doing here, but you will probably see, is this first problem we solved for M, and we figured out what the concentration was. In the second problem, we solved for moles. You will probably see a third problem where you'll solve for the volume, the liters. Okay, and I don't have one that's practicing that, but you should be able to solve for that. If you know the concentration and you know your moles, you can figure out how many liters that's going to be. Okay, the other topic is diluting solutions, and that's going to be our next video.